Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel, or welcome in if you're new. I am Channie, and today we're watching TierZoo video, and it is the Are Camels OP? I don't know, are they? They seem very resourceful animals, they persevere in harsh weather conditions, I would say. So they might be OP. I don't know much about their like strength and stuff, but they do carry people and things around, so maybe they do have hidden strength here. Let's find out. And do let me know down in the comments if you've ever rode a camel. It'd be interesting to know. But yeah, let's just get to it. Look at this. Oh my god! You know what? Maybe they are very strong.
Camels are one of the most unorthodox builds in the game. In the right conditions, their combination of unique abilities and special set of elemental resistances makes for a shockingly effective strategy. But overall, where do camels rank on the tier list? Is their weird shape and odd...
I think, if I have to guess without knowing what he's gonna address in this video, I would probably put them C plus, maybe? I think their perseverance is their biggest, biggest advantage. And also, I'm not sure if how they digest food as well, but you know, the water aspect of it, like they're very resourceful when it comes to that. So I wonder, food wise, if they're also okay with having like saving food and stuff. So
is their weird
I'll give it a C plus without knowing.
Overpowered, or is their current
we'll
player
see if
base
I change it or if he
human allies?
puts
Today
them
we'll discuss
somewhere
the
else.
history, stats, and abilities of the camel, and ultimately decide. We'll begin with the origin of the camel. Camels first began rising in the meta at a time when a lot of mammalian herbivore builds were really taking off. Some of these herbivores spec'd into an ability called rumination to gain bonus XP from the newly buffed grass spawn rates. Some herbivores spec'd into more powerful PvP abilities, like keratinized horns and armor, in order to remain more well defended when out in the open. The camel, by contrast, took neither of these paths. Because they could not digest grass, they instead needed to spec into abilities which would allow them to survive the frequent long treks between an ever-decreasing supply of nutritious tree leaves. So what are the camel's most important abilities? The most obvious one is their hump. The hump serves multiple purposes. Primarily, it's used as a site for fat storage, functioning as an energy reserve which allows camels to survive incredibly long journeys without access to food. With a maxed
so it was for food. Well, energy, but you know, so it wasn't necessarily just water. I thought it would be mainly water and partially food, I guess. But it seems mainly food. Interesting.
Camel players can ignore.
Also, I've never seen a fluffy camel
with a maxed
before.
Out
it looks so cute. Look at it. Look at the hair. It looks so it looks soft.
Fat reserve. Camel players can ignore hunger damage for several months as they search for new spots to forage. But in addition to providing starvation resistance, allocating all the camel's body fat to one spot gives them excellent heat resistance by allowing for extremely efficient heat exchange everywhere else on the surface of the camel's body. Now, of course, this ability does come at a cost.
My god.
The hump is an awkward and cumbersome
I'm sorry, but I'd be so embarrassed if that happened to me. Oh my god.
Now, of course, this ability does come at a cost. The hump is an awkward and cumbersome load to bear, weighing the camel down.
Oh my god, is it
its
okay?
movement a lot more wobbly and top-heavy while running. Definitely not an ability you could just throw onto any other herbivore build and see benefit from. You need to have other abilities to help mitigate the weaknesses the hump incurs. So what other abilities does the camel have?
I hope they're okay.
The second main ability is the camel's feet pads. Rather than walking on hooved toes like most other herbivores, camels spec into large padded feet. Now, normally when a player spends their evolution points unlocking padded feet, they're doing so in order to mask the sound of their steps and buff their stealth stat. While it does technically offer a small stealth bonus, something as tall as a camel is not going to be very successful.
Sneak increased to 30. Oh my god, look at him.
Instead, similar to the hump, this ability protects camels from the stress and chip damage most players would accrue when walking for such long distances. It also spreads out their weight, preventing them from sinking into whatever surface they're standing on. This is especially important when traversing sandy or snowy environments.
Oh my god, he's so short. Look at him. Look at the baby. Is it a baby or is there short camels?
negates the movement penalties from this sort of terrain.
Look at
Camels have a
it.
few other minor abilities as well.
What is
Their
that?
sickle-shaped blood cells make them more resistant
was
to
that?
dehydration, and their tough, leathery mouth negates puncture damage,
Oh my
allowing the camel to
god.
be one of the few builds able to eat cacti without being hurt by their spines.
Oh
A
my
lot of players are
god.
under the
It ate a whole cacti, but lemon made it react so aggressively. That's crazy.
one of the few builds able to eat cacti without being hurt by their spines. A lot of players are under the impression that camels possess a powerful spitting ranged attack, similar to the cobra or archerfish. Unfortunately, no, there's not really anything particularly threatening about the camel's spit, nor do they actually employ this skill in combat. They may vomit when threatened, but this is usually just a result of stress, not a defensive ability. That's not to say that camel's mouth isn't dangerous, though. In addition to their tough, leathery palate, one of the things that sets camels apart from other herbivores is that their teeth can actually deal
mouth of it is
serious
so
damage.
interesting.
And with a neck as long, powerful, and flexible as the camel's, there's not many angles you could attack a camel from without risking a nasty bite counterattack. Camels can also attack with their kicks, although their padded feet won't deal as much damage as, say, the sharp hooves of a zebra or giraffe. Anyway, those are the main abilities of the camel build. Next, let's look at the camel's stats.
Oh, stats. Oh my god, that was quick. Mr. TierZoo, give me time. I need to dissect this information. Okay, behind me is intelligence, and it's at 60. I'm trying to show it as much as I can, but yeah, it'll be covered for the rest here. But power. Interesting. I expected power... I don't know where I expected power, but I wasn't sure if they were powerful or not, but I'm surprised to see it at 70. Mobility is very high. And perseverance or perception. Is this perseverance or perception? I keep thinking it's perseverance, but it might be perception, like their alertness, I guess. Stealth is very bad though. Damn. It's perception, I think. I guess, because I mean exclamation here, so I guess it is perception. Defense is low though. Their stealth and defense is lowest, but they're more intelligent than they have health, it seems, if I'm not mistaken here. So that's a little interesting. Okay. Alright, let's see what he says.
And quick note, I should mention that there are two variations of camel, the dromedary and Bactrian. Their most apparent difference is that...
Isn't it one that has one hump and one has two?
The dromedary has one hump, while the Bactrian has two.
See, I know
but
that
honestly,
much.
the more
I just didn't
important
know that
difference
they had...
is in their base
I didn't know the
stats.
different names.
Bactrians are larger, more powerful, and better adapted to the cold. The dromedary is smaller, but slightly more agile, and better suited for extreme heat. Camels have slightly above average intelligence, necessary for them to be able to remember the long routes that they travel on. As mentioned earlier, camels do have a more damaging bite than most herbivores, but compared to the damage large herbivores can dish out using their tusks or horns, they still fall short. Their defenses are quite strong, especially when it comes to elemental resistances. But on top of those, the camel's height makes it very difficult for predators to land an attack on them. Thanks to their special terrain movement bonuses, most of the time they don't even need to worry about predators, as no sane player would seriously try to follow them into an inhospitable desert. But even on normal solid ground, the camel's movement speed is pretty decent, albeit kind of awkward. Obviously, even with their
it looks very like, I don't know, you'll ever like walk somewhere and then you start thinking about how you're walking and you kind of like for a few seconds forget how to properly walk and you just kind of walk very awkwardly. Is this too specific of an experience? Maybe, but I feel like more people actually have this experience than just me, surely. Right guys, right? Stop calling me out. Okay, I was just making sure I'm not alone. YouTube, do let me know. Do you ever experience that? Because it's so embarrassing. I'm like, how do I walk again? What is going on? Life hard.
feet slightly dampening the sound of their steps, their
but yeah, that's
stealth is
how
still
they
abysmal,
walk.
given that camels are the third tallest land animal after the giraffe and elephant. And lastly, their perception is pretty normal for a mammal, except for the camel's partial immunity to the blindness condition, on account of their long eyelashes, which block incoming sand and dust.
Lashes.
This is all well and good, but the question remains, just how viable is this setup really? Is the camel just another build completely carried by humanity? So the camel is actually one of the more recent additions to the humans' party, with domestication being unlocked during the mid to late Bronze Age, well after dogs, cats, and horses had already formed alliances with humanity. And it was with the last one, horses, that camels were competing with for the spot on the team, as both horses and camels are useful to function as a mount. Horses are the faster mount, and in a lot of scenarios, that's truly all that matters. In Bronze Age human versus human PvP, being able to outmaneuver and flank their enemies was one of the most important
Yeah.
factors in securing victory. But for just about everything else,
Makes
camels
sense.
were far more reliable. Camels have a higher equipment load, meaning they can carry much more cargo. They have higher vitality and defense. and
Really?
thus-
Wait, more than horses? Interesting. So they couldn't pick just both and be like, okay, this one is more for like, you know, transport of heavier stuff and yabba yabba. And then the horses for more like combat specifically.
equipment load, meaning they can carry much more cargo. They have higher vitality and defense, and thus can carry human players a much further distance in much worse conditions. And of course, the fact that they are not impeded by difficult terrain is a huge perk for choosing the camel. It's for this reason that as humanity began transitioning away from a nomadic raiding playstyle and towards Bronze Age palace-based economies, having a mount that could carry goods across the vast desert between empires was of vital importance. Camels were the only viable option for humans to cross the large deserts, like the Outback, Sahara, and Mojave, until humanity unlocked trains on the tech tree. So for a substantial length of time,
Trains
camels were an
unlocked.
integral part of the
Big
economy
stonks,
across
big
most
camel
of the world.
stonks.
And although railroads have made them
Oh my
obsolete
goodness.
in some
Oh
services,
my god.
when it comes to
Oh my
crossing
god,
the
I'm
desert,
scared.
they are still genuinely one of the best
Aw.
options. Similar to horses and
cute.
cattle, the vast majority of camel players are purely opting for the human-focused team combo playstyle. There are only around 1,000 players who are part of the truly wild faction that never joined up with humans. Does this mean without humans, camels would be low-tier
No,
trash?
leave the
I can see why you might jump to
baby.
that conclusion. Despite their immense physical
Don't steal
strength,
the
I rated
baby.
domestic cattle as B tier, in part
B
because
tier,
without
okay.
humanity,
I
it's
wasn't very far off. I put them at C plus without knowing as much as I know right now. So okay, good guess.
unclear
Good
if they
guess.
could even survive in the wilderness. Honestly, B
I would pat them if they didn't look like they would nibble my entire arm in one bite.
tier might have even been too
That's
generous.
true.
But there's no question, when left to fend for themselves in the wilderness, camels not only survive, they thrive. When humanity unlocked the motorized transport tech, many human players kicked out the camel players from their party.
No.
This happened in America, in the Middle East, and most significantly in Australia. Now, an invasive mammal succeeding in Australia is really not that big a surprise, but thriving in the outback specifically is undoubtedly impressive. Here, they must contend with one of the other most successful Australian invaders, the dingo. And let's be real, it's not
The
even
who?
close to being an even matchup. Being historically from Asia, camels had to contend with everything from lions and leopards to wolves and even tigers. So despite their awkward top-heavy appearance and lack of powerful damage-dealing abilities, their incredible survival skill earns them the rank
Look
of
at
A tier.
him.
Now, this video
A-tier.
focused specifically on the Bactrian and Dromedary camel, the two builds most players would associate
Wait,
with the
wait,
word
wait. What gave it an A tier?
invasive mammal succeeding in Australia is really not that big a surprise, but thriving in the outback specifically is undoubtedly impressive. Here,
You don't
they
know
must
about
contend
dingoes?
with one of
I
the
don't
other
know
most
about
successful
dingoes.
Australian invaders, the
What are
dingo.
dingoes?
And let's be real, it's not even
It
close
looks
to
like a
being-
dog. There's literally, that's a dog. That's not someone's pet. You're telling me that's a whole wild species lives in the wilderness? It's
even
not
matchup.
someone's pet.
Being historically from Asia, camels had to contend with everything from lions and leopards to wolves and even tigers. So despite their awkward top-heavy appearance and lack of powerful damage-dealing abilities, their incredible survival skill earns them the rank of A tier. Now, this video focused specifically on the Bactrian and Dromedary camel, the two builds most players would associate with the word camel. But the camel faction does technically contain two other builds, the llama and alpaca. These belong to the player
Whoa. I was gonna say earlier, when he mentioned the spit, I was like, isn't that a llama thing? Or alpaca thing? One of the two. I cannot distinguish them, but actually maybe with this picture.
faction does technically contain two other builds, the llama and alpaca.
Okay, yeah, alpaca has like more pointy upwards ears, like elongated ears. This one has more like pointy ones. Okay. So I thought it was like one of these two. I thought of them when he mentioned the spitting. But they're considered like part of the camel family? I had no idea. But it kind of makes sense. They do have a lot of resemblance. So it does make sense. They ate a baby in the 80s. It was a huge deal. Looks more wolfy than doggy. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. Just gobbled up a baby? What the hell?
These belong to the player base of prehistoric camels, which
Oh
chose to
my.
venture south into the South America server, rather than across the Bering Strait and into Asia. Because of their vastly different environments, they obviously spec into different abilities. However, a lot of their core features are more or less the same. I have a lot to say about these creatures,
Look at
mostly that they
it,
are
it's
the
a
most
puppy.
disgusting,
Oh.
nasty creatures I've ever encountered. Alright, so this ad read is
Oh
going to
my
take a
god,
bit of a
I think he has some very, very personal experience with alpacas and llamas, because that is crazy.
the most disgusting, nasty
This is the most energy I've ever seen TierZoo ever show. Wow. He's like repulsed by their existence. This is crazy. Well. That was our Camels OP. I'm surprised. I think he gave the final rating might have been, I think from B it went to A. Because first it was B, but then he talked a bit more and gave them an A. So I think he gave them an A in the end. But very interesting. I didn't know that alpacas and llamas were actually officially part of the camel species. Very interesting. Secondly, I didn't know that it was purely just fat on their humps. I thought it was water and a tiny bit of nutritions, but I thought it was mainly water, but turns out it's fat, so that's cool. And their mouths are so enduring. How do you stand eating a cactus but not a lemon? That's crazy. That's crazy work. But super interesting. I really enjoyed learning about camels. I hope you also enjoyed it. And let me know still in the comments if you've ever rode a camel. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, YouTube!